evening, we begin with a story of solidarity from our neighbors in the British Virgin Islands, short BVI, a telethon organized by the Honorary Consul and the Association of Jamaican Residents in the BVI that raised funds and supplies for families in Haiti and Jamaica. Over the next few minutes, we'll speak with Honorary Consul Paul Dennis KC and Tanya Cassie Parker, President of the Association, to learn how the drive came together, how donations are being channeled, and what lessons their effort holds for sustained diaspora support. Lead Story begins now. Good evening and welcome to Lead Story. I'm Nika Lewis. We have a two-part discussion this evening, but first up is the support for Jamaica from loved ones in the British Virgin Islands. There was only a recent telethon, proceeds of which will be in aid of relief in Jamaica and Haiti. Joining us to discuss the relief efforts and concerns among Jamaicans in the BVI, we will have on Zoom the Honorary Consul in the BVI, Paul Dennis KC, and Ms. Tanya Cassie Parker, President of the Association of Jamaican Residents in the British Virgin Islands. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Nika.
Well, KC Dennis, what motivated the BVI Honorary Consul's office to organize this telethon and what was accomplished?
Okay, well, perhaps I should start by just setting some background. The BVI is a very cosmopolitan society. Up to 50% of the population probably is made up of foreign nationals, which includes Jamaicans. And Jamaicans form probably about the third largest non-BVI resident population in the BVI. Among foreign nationals, we make up about we're about the third largest. And of course, that means that whatever is happening in Jamaica impacts many Jamaicans who are here, who live and work in the British Virgin Islands. And obviously, with the impact of Hurricane Irma, and indeed even before Hurricane Irma made landfall, there was obviously great concern about the implications of that. And when indeed our worst fears were realized, like the rest of the Jamaican diaspora, of course, we felt not only obliged, but we also felt that, it was in our interest in terms of connecting with family and friends and our brethren in Jamaica to see how best we could assist as part of the relief effort. Yes. And so that is really what galvanized us to get together to realize these relief efforts, including that telethon to which you referred.
Right. Were there any logistic challenges you faced raising and moving funds or other items in aid from the BVI to Haiti or Jamaica?
Okay, well, so at the very outset, all the information we were getting out of Jamaica suggested to us that the most efficient way of assisting in the short term would be through cash donations. And so we focused on that effort. And this led to my partnering with the Association of Jamaican Residents through President Tanya, who is here, and also with BVI Civic Society, including service clubs, particularly Rotary and Lions, the BVI Red Cross, the BVI Christian Council, which has representation among churches in the BVI, and also even representatives from the BVI Department of Disaster Management. And all of these aspects of civil society were very keen to contribute to hurricane relief in Jamaica. And that collective really, from the outset, indicated their willingness to work with us. And one of the results, the main result of that effort, was the telethon, which they put on, with support from myself as Jamaica's honorary consul and participation also from the executive of the Jamaican Association, which Tanya can speak a little bit more to.
Indeed. And so we're up on a quick break, Consul, but when we return, we'll definitely be hearing more about the initiatives taken on by the Jamaicans in the BVI. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We are talking about relief efforts in the British Virgin Islands. And with us this evening is the Honorary Consul in the BVI, Mr. Paul Dennis, KC. And we also have Ms. Tanya Cassie, and this is Tanya Cassie Parker, President of the Association of the Jamaican Residents in the British Virgin Islands. So we had promised you before the break that when we returned, we'd ask Ms. Cassie Parker how Jamaicans in the BVI are responding to the crisis and what's the mood on the ground. So we welcome her to the conversation.
Thank you, Nika. So from even before the onslaught of Hurricane Melissa, Jamaicans resident in the BVI started to rally, just to send prayers and to basically mobilize, because having been through a Category 5 storm ourselves just a few years ago, we knew what the likely impact would have been. After the passing of the hurricane, I mean, there has been a huge outpouring of solidarity, of love, of support from the Jamaicans residing here, and non-Jamaicans as well, the entire community. Persons have opened their hearts, they've opened their pockets, they want to give whatever they can. And so in addition to the telethon, the New Testament Church here has been accepting donations of items, food, clothing, etc. And they are putting together, I think, a container, a shipment, which will leave the BVI on November 17th. And separate and apart from the telethon, we continue to raise raise monies to assist with the relief efforts in Jamaica, because we recognize that the aid that is necessary is going to be extensive, it's going to be ongoing. This is going to be a long haul effort. We were very pleased, the association, to have been able to mobilize quickly to send some supplies into Westmoreland just last Sunday, specifically Darlington. We were able to procure some supplies on the ground in Jamaica, food items, tarpaulins, etc. And we liaised with a group that was heading to Westmoreland to have those supplies delivered on Sunday. And we were extremely pleased, and we plan to do similar such efforts in the coming days and weeks.
Very good, because we want to know now, Mr. Casey Dennis, how were needs assessed in both Jamaica and Haiti to ensure that the right people were reached at the right time?
Okay, so as honorary consul, I have been keeping very closely in touch with what's happening in Jamaica, including the periodic briefings, which we've seen being hosted by the government of Jamaica, and that gave us a gauge of what the needs were on the ground. But as I said, our focus was really on cash donations as opposed to the donations in kind for the immediate period. And the way in which the civic organizations, particularly involved in the telethon, for example, operate is that they will deploy the funds which have been raised by virtue of the telethon through their counterparts on the ground in Jamaica, with a mechanism to ensure that those funds are used to acquire materials, food supplies, and any other necessities in kind, which can then find their way via distribution into the most needy communities. And I have to say, Nika, that going back to Tanya's talk about the outpouring of support which we receive, not just from the Jamaican community in the BVI, but from the BVI community at large.
Yes.
With that telethon, we had a target of 100,000 US dollars, the US dollar being the currency of the BVI. And I'm happy to say that before the end of our telethon period, which ran basically from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m., we had exceeded that target. And there are still collections which have been coming in by virtue of that effort today. So that was highly successful. And we were very happy with that outcome. And of course, thrilled at the level of support which we received from the BVI community at large.
Indeed. But looking ahead, will there be any long-term efforts, and what exactly should Jamaicans impacted by the storm really know about their brothers and sisters in the BVI? This one is for you and for Ms. Tanya.
Well, I think what our Jamaican brothers and sisters in Jamaica need to know is that we are thinking of them every single day, that their pain is our pain, and that the efforts which we've just spoken about will not be the be-all and the end-all of our efforts to continue to assist. I mean, all of us have been impacted, whether directly or indirectly. In my case, it was 2 days after the hurricane before I got any communication whatsoever with my own family in the parish of Westmoreland, who lived within 15 miles of where the hurricane made landfall in Westmoreland. And I hadn't heard from my 88-year-old mother for 2 days.
Oh,
you can imagine how agonizing that was.
Indeed.
Fortunately, ultimately, the news came, the family was fine. But yes, we have your backs. We'll continue to be supportive, and we'll continue with our efforts to do so.
Thank you, Casey. Ms. Tanya, your final minute.
Thanks, Nika. So I would echo what Casey Paul has said. You know, we, the Jamaicans on the ground in the BVI, we know that this is a long-term effort. And so we're pledging ongoing support. We are still collecting donations. We're in it for the long haul. We're constantly praying and thinking of our brothers and sisters in Jamaica. And we will be looking for whatever way we can assist in the future. We're in it for the long haul. This is the beginning, just the beginning.
All right, thank you so much, and all the best in your efforts and endeavors. We're happy for the support in any way that we can get it, and we really appreciate it. That's Honorary Consul in the British Virgin Islands, Mr. Paul Dennis KC, and Ms. Tanya Cassie Parker, President of the Association of Jamaican Residents in the British Virgin Islands. Do stay with us. We'll be right back for more Lead Story. Welcome back to Lead Story. In this segment, we look at the effect of the Category 5 hurricane on the country's biodiversity. And to take a closer look at the matter, we are joined by biologist Damian White. Welcome, Mr. White.
Welcome, welcome.
Well, you're all the way over there in Portland, but what is biodiversity and why should we even be concerned about that at a time when so many Jamaicans are picking up the pieces of their lives after the disaster?
Well, biodiversity, what we're talking about is basically the plants and animals living together. We have a whole ecosystem, and when we talk about biodiversity, we talk about the special plants and animals that we have. Now, after the hurricane, why we should be concerned, just think of it. The hurricane came in. Before the hurricane, most of the place was green. And then the winds come in, and now when you talk to most people, all you're seeing is brown. And all of this now, the leaves of the trees are gone, the flowers. And several of our animals are dependent on the flowers, the leaf, the fruits. So why we should care if they lose all of that, then again, it affect these special animals. And these animals also will benefit us in terms, some of them pollinate a number of our plants, some of them that we eat, like bats.
All right. There may be a bit of delay. He's joining us via Zoom, and he's all the way out there in Portland. He did say he'd be joining us using a Starlink connection because there is some challenge connecting in sections of the parish. We gather he's back.
Oh, you hear me?
Yes, hearing you now.
Hello?
You're live.
Yes. Yeah, I was having problem because I'm in Portland. Same
Yes,
way.
we understand. But can you summarize the types of biodiversity damage? You mentioned a few. You were talking about the bats, you were talking about the greenery, but the type of biodiversity damage that we're now seeing after Hurricane Melissa, especially when it pertains to rivers, the coastline, and the land.
Okay, so today I was in Rio Grande Valley, which a number of people only think that the west was destroyed or mashed up for the hurricane. But when you go to the Rio Grande Valley, you have a big forested area. Most of the trees that I mentioned are brown. And when you look in the river, you see fallen trees, rocks coming up in areas that you have never seen before. And some of the people are now complaining that they're seeing birds that they have never seen before because the forest got hit. Some of the areas now when we're talking about wetlands, you go down to St. Elizabeth, the mangroves, especially on the Black River, there was a number of mangroves that you see along the river, and then you'd see white birds that we locally call garline and other wetland birds, and even the crocodile. Now, when you go to Black River, the plants are gone. The mangrove leaves, some of them are down, and I was talking to a colleague and not even seeing much of the crocodiles.
Which species or habitats then would you think would be considered most at risk in the immediate aftermath, and why?
Okay, so if we go back, when I mentioned before that the forest is very important for stuff like bees and birds, we have records now of people, every time I go on social media, people telling you that they're seeing parrots at their home, going for fruits. They're seeing stuff like the ball pit that they have never seen up so close on the ground. These animals that are dependent on the fruits and some that are dependent on the nectar are now showing up our areas that have few trees or might have, a berry or something like that. And they're trying to get food. The bees that you hear people mentioning is problematic. And then when you go to the copy country, and again, we have this butterfly that we call the giant swallowtail, or we call it Papilla homerus. It is only found in 2 areas in the world in Jamaica, that is the Cockpit and the Blue and Dranka Mountain. No, it is dependent on good forests. And we are very concerned about this butterfly because when we go to areas in the Cockpit country, the vegetation, as I mentioned, is stripped. And because the vegetation is stripped now, you're wondering what is happening to this butterfly. So that is one of the many species that we know that are there, but with the hurricane, we are wondering what happened to them. And then one of the last spin-off that I want to tell you, some people now are taking advantage of the birds, like the
How?
parrots and the Jamaican parakeet, catching them. So when they come home now begging for water and food, some people see it as an opportunity now to catch these birds. And they must remember, one, have a little heart. Just like how we humans going through problems, they are fighting hard now to find food. Two, it is an offense. You can get in big trouble. I mean, the Wildlife Act has changed. You can pay up to three months. And some of the people who are buying these birds on TikTok or on social media are the popular guy that everybody know down Miami Bay that have them on stick. You who buy them is also making this a continue. So if you don't have anybody buying it, he can sell it. And if you see him sell it, call the police, call NEPA, and you can reach out to people like me and like Roosters World JA and tell us, and we get the people to come and deal with it. Please don't try and catch and harm the animals now that are going through a hard time.
How could they reach you, Mr. White?
Okay, so I'm very active on social media. That's Roosters World, ROOSTERWORLJA, and more social IG, TikTok, or you can email me, DL_White. You can even call me, 435-9475. And if you can't get me, reach NEPA. And if you see them doing some of these acts, call the police.
Okay. What short-term surveys do you propose monitoring, for example, should be prioritized to guide recovery decisions?
Well, my understanding right now, I know that NEPA is doing a rapid assessment and they'll put it. Forestry department is doing it. But one of the things that we need, and I'm pushing it, there's few scientists and few agencies that are around, and we're asking people if they see something, you know, a bird that was injured or a bat or something show up, or an odd flower that you can take a picture and share it to even NEPA or share it to me on Roosters World JA. One of the first things we need to do is document what happened during the hurricane. And the example I give, which trees did fall down, which one did stand up. When we are planting back trees, try and plant the native one and don't plant the alien invasive. And when we said alien invasive plants, we're talking plants that are not originally found in Jamaica. They are now here and all competing some of our local plants. And an example of this, there's a plant that most Jamaicans know as donkey peepee. When you're driving on the highway, you see this beautiful orange flower. That is one of the invasive, and you see so much of it. Or when you're driving on the highway, driving, and you see the hills full of bamboo and other plants. These plants all compete our local plants. And we have to, yes, and we need to, the agencies need to provide the information of the right trees to plant.
Okay.
And we also need to plant some of the plants that will encourage our wildlife, you know, some that flower, some that produce fruits and that. So that's one thing. Second thing, the universities and the other group need to do some small projects in terms of we don't really have baseline information on some of our animals. If you hear everybody talking about the junkers the other day,
yes,
where is anybody doing a study to know what population is in a certain area? So if the hurricane came and something did happen to them, did 10% go down? Did 90%? We need to be doing some of that baseline information. And for me right now,
do we have any realistic timelines or markers of ecological recovery? What should we expect? Very quickly, I have less than a minute.
The recovery is going to take a long time, especially for local species. So there's a short term where some of the plants will come.
Yes.
Some of our animals population going to go down, but it will rebuild, but it need help.
All right, that's a conversation that requires a little more time that we don't have. So that's going to have to do it for Lead Story this evening. I'm Nika Lewis. Thank you so much again, Mr. White, a biologist all the way out there in Portland. Do stay with us for our news at 7, comes up at the top of the hour.